From the farms of the Platte Valley to the vast ranches of the Sandhills, it's time to kick off Beef Month in the beef state. Ahead on Grow, we see how producers are connecting with school kids, plus how ethanol got wrapped up in the national debt ceiling debate. And we begin a deep dive into carbon capture pipelines. Later, we visit with the outgoing UNL chancellor to talk ag. It's time to grow. Many Nebraska school kids are 3, 4, or more generations removed from agriculture. So Beef in Schools Day is a chance for kids to learn more. And NTV's Taylor Leverett takes us to Dawson County.
Gothenburg students are getting a chance to learn where their food comes from. And on the menu, of course, beef.
What did you have today? Tell me what you had.
A hobby sandwich.
Was it good?
Yeah.
Student Olin Fairley is one of 5,200 kids in Dawson County being fed beef. And as the son of farmers, the third grader knows firsthand what living on the farm is like.
We walk a lot of cattle.
But for those students outside of the ranch, Beef in Schools Day is there to educate.
We always have kids that are excited about having beef day, especially from the high schoolers and the teachers. They are always excited when it's beef day and stuff. They always want to come and eat. And it's a great nutritional meal. We like to really provide, show them the nutrition of having beef in their diets.
A hot beef sandwich, beef pizza, and street beef tacos were items on Wednesday's lunch menu. Although Dawson County Ag Groups and Tyson provide the meat when it comes to the choices on the menu.
Kind of just let the schools run and do what they want.
And serving 6 different schools in the county takes some preparation.
With Tyson's help, we are able to kind of coordinate earlier in the year, and we get with them and they're able to donate that. And then as an organization, Farm Bureau and Cattlemen get together and we split it up between the schools, and we're able to do all of the schools in Dawson County.
As students learn where the food on their plate comes from, Peterson says the benefit goes beyond the beef.
Fun to be able to come back and educate those kids about, the true nutritional values of beef and how it is honestly healthy for your diet and stuff to eat beef.
Reporting in Gothenburg, I'm Taylor Leverett.
Caught up in that debt ceiling debate, ethanol tax credits that could have been on the chopping block. Congressman Adrian Smith spoke about that a couple of days ago.
Biofuels incentives that were already on the books that happened to be included in the so-called Inflation Reduction Act, passed last fall, different majority. Now, virtually every Republican voted no on that bill because it was so full of unnecessary items and spending, subsidies for the wealthy to buy electric vehicles, things like that. So, but these biofuels provisions were included in that. So there was kind of the assumption by some here that, well, all of us would be against every single item that happened to be in that bill. Well, they were really different, but it was considered in the same boat. So now to undo some of that, there was this initial proposal to undo some of these biofuels incentives, and I expressed my concern working with my with my Iowa colleagues, Minnesota, Missouri as well, and to raise these concerns. And ultimately, we were able to work out a compromise that I think has us in a much better place, and certainly on behalf of the economies of the states I mentioned, especially states like Iowa and Nebraska.
And the feds are expanding access to E15 this summer. The action from the EPA is meant to provide relief at the pump by increasing the nation's fuel supply and offer more choices. The ongoing fuel supply issues we're seeing is in part due to the ongoing Russian invasion of Ukraine, as fuel producers are impacted by tariffs and export restrictions on crude oil. The waiver will help protect Americans by reducing the reliance on imported fossil fuels, in turn building U.S. energy independence and supporting American agriculture and manufacturing. The current estimates show, on average, E15 is about 25 cents cheaper than E10. U.S. Senator Deb Fischer praised the waiver, saying, quote, "Glad to see the EPA finally announce it's lifting restrictions on E15 for the 2023 summer driving season." the White House should get behind my year-round E15 bill and stop the yearly uncertainty. It's time consumers across America had consistent access to a biofuel that will lower gas prices. Senator Ricketts saying, quote, E15 is a win for everyone. It saves drivers money at the pump, helps clean our environment, and creates jobs here in America. That's why it enjoys bipartisan support. Today's announcement is good news, but our producers deserve a more permanent solution than bureaucratic waivers. It's time to pass Senator Fisher's Consumer and Fuel Retailer Choice Act and unleash year-round E15 for good. A first-generation college kid turned university chancellor. Ronnie Green says it's been an honor to lead Nebraska's flagship campus. Green is retiring at the end of the school year. He comes from a farm background and became an internationally recognized animal scientist. His wife, known as Husker Jane, grew up on a farm in south central Nebraska. Of all the initiatives at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, he says one of the most important is the College Prep Academy that mentors kids from low-income families and prepares them for college.
It is one of the most highly impactful, highest graduation rate, highest successful programs that we have had over time. Continue to see that grow, excited about it. I'm a first-gen student myself. I think many people know that. And we're continuing to see that success. So looking forward to celebrating with those students.
Don't be surprised if you see Ronnie teaching Sunday school or in the pulpit filling in for a pastor, as he plans to do lay ministry in retirement as well as travel. And as you may know, Green's ties to agriculture are deep. We are going to dig deep on carbon pipelines later, but up next, more of our conversation with outgoing UNL Chancellor Ronnie Green. There's no place like Nebraska. We like to say that when it comes to Husker athletics, but the university's research also believes in that, as we caught up with Chancellor Ronnie Green.
And just the growth that we have seen, and the growth not only in numbers but in stature of our ag and natural resources and food programs at the university has been really cool to watch, and to see that happen and continue to grow and have the impact that it is making in those fields.
I'm probably biased because there's not a week that goes by that I don't interview somebody with a red N on their shirt, whether it's an extension, or somebody doing research or whatnot. But you talk about the stature of that. Do you think that the stature of especially the research we're doing in ag, food, natural resources, has that grown?
It absolutely has. And our ag research at the university actually leads all areas of research for the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, which makes sense, for where we are and what our state represents and the importance of agriculture and food production here. But if we look out over the last 7 years, we're one of very few universities in the country, anywhere in the country, especially coming through the pandemic time period that we've had, where we have broken our research expenditures record every year, year on year, including last year, where we were up 6% in our research expenditures, led again by ag, food, and life sciences research at the university. I can unequivocally say that of all the land-grant universities around the country, that Nebraska has continued to prioritize and put at the very center of its land-grant mission the agriculture, food, and environment world, right? And I think one would be hard-pressed to find anywhere else in the United States where that emphasis has been maintained in that way and will be maintained, I think, for many, many decades to come by the University of Nebraska. Even in places, we like to talk about the Texans and we like to talk about the Californians and so forth, but there is no place like Nebraska in terms of that important emphasis and the stature of what we do in those areas.
And quite frankly, when you look at all the challenges these days of sustainability, changing climate, and all of these things, there's going to come a day, I think, someday where some of these other universities are going to look around and go, these folks in Nebraska are on to something. They've been doing that for a long, long time.
Yeah, I reflect on a conversation that I had in Scottsbluff on yesterday, with students there who are working in their research work at the Panhandle Research and Extension Center and talking about the future needs of what we're going to need to do in these areas. And what I said to them is, we have lots and lots of challenges that we're only on the front end of solving, right, in all of these fields collectively. So absolutely, we're committed to that at the university, and it's great to see, that happening.
You gonna be able to put this chancellor job aside after May and kind of get off the grid a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a real privilege and honor to serve the university that my wife Jane and I love so deeply. Has been such an important part of our life. But we are very excited about the next phase for us and the opportunity to step back at this phase of life and spend a lot of time with our growing adult family and their children. And I was been sharing with folks out across the state, one of the things that I did formerly in many of my former lives that I've had a lot less time to do, and in the roles with the university these last 13 years, is a lot of lay ministry work. That's an important part of our life. And I'm so looking forward to being able to get back and do a number of those things all here in Nebraska. We'll be one of the biggest supporters you'll see at the University of Nebraska forever. But we are excited about the next phase of our life as well.
We wish Ronnie and Jane the best in retirement. Our Grow Weather Outlook is next.
The drought monitor this week improved in some areas. In other words, it has gotten drier. In Kansas, the amount of ground that is in the no drought situation has shrunk from 16% last week. This week, 11.5%. But in Nebraska, it's grown to nearly 1%. Total land in Nebraska drought-free, the southeast corner, 0.84%. Kansas, 88.5% abnormally dry, moderate drought, 82%, and the severe drought, 71.1%. Extreme drought, though, has now risen this week to 60.5%, and the exceptional drought in Kansas, 46.3%. Nebraska abnormally dry, 99.5%, moderate 99%, severe drought 77%. The extreme has risen to 45.5%, and exceptional in the northeast part of the state has grown to 6.25%. And of course, the rain that we got late last week really didn't amount to much, or at least not putting much of a dent in the drought. Hopefully, the outlook long range will be improved. According to the Climate Prediction Center, it will be equal chances as far as temperatures. In other words, normal temperatures for all of Nebraska and Kansas, and that holds true as far as overall rainfall as well. The 3-month outlook, May, June, July, temperature above normal for basically the southern portion of Kansas. There's just the northern tier counties that will be near normal. All of Nebraska, temperature-wise, normal. And then always a good outlook, normal precipitation. All of Nebraska except above in the extreme southeast portion of the state, and there is that sliver across eastern Kansas that will be above. Otherwise, all of Kansas also normal in the rain gauge, and that is good news. For us, the week ahead, frost tomorrow morning and again Tuesday morning. A cooler day, at least cooler than normal, 63 for tomorrow, but then we climb all the way up to 83 Wednesday, then back down, 72 Friday, which is still above normal for May. There at least are some chances for some precipitation. Normal highs should be 67, normal lows 43. we're going to be pretty close. Our high ahead this week will average 73 and our low will average 41. Pretty sizable proverb this week. April and May are the keys of the year. A cold April, the barn will fill. A dry April, not the farmer's will. Rain in April is what he wills. Snow in April is manure. Snow in March devours. That is your Grow Report for this week. Join us again next time when once again it will be time to grow.
We love your photos. Make sure to go to nebraska.tv and chime in. There's a lot of talk about carbon capture pipelines and ethanol plants. Coming up next, we're taking a deep dive as we learn more. Carbon capture pipelines can be a divisive topic in rural America, and we want to learn more. Katie Koppel from our sister station in Sioux City has a deeper look.
This is Lincoln Way Energy, an ethanol plant in Nevada, Iowa. The largest byproduct of this and other ethanol plants is carbon dioxide. Upwards of 5 billion tons are emitted in the U.S. every year. Now 2 companies want to sequester that gas, liquefy it, and store it underground. That process, known as carbon sequestration, has become a hot-button topic across the Corn Belt.
No, I think it's really great to partner up with Summit Carbon Solutions because it's going to secure the future of ethanol plants.
Summit Carbon Solutions is one of the corporations with plans to build a $3.7 billion liquid carbon capture pipeline through the Midwest.
It's compressing that carbon, putting it into a transportation infrastructure system or a pipeline, and then moving it to a sequestration site, which ultimately will then store that carbon molecule under Caprock in North Dakota.
Lee Blank is the CEO.
Really what I liken it to maybe the Transcontinental Railroad. It opens markets for plants like this one here in Nevada to give it other places that they can ship their products at a premium.
Summit will connect more than 30 ethanol plants across 2,000 miles, capturing more than 12 million tons of CO2 each year. The pressurized liquid carbon dioxide will be stored deep underground near Bismarck, North Dakota.
We would hope to be fully operational first quarter of 2025.
All of that infrastructure really looking to do carbon management at its core.
A second pipeline, Heartland Greenway's Navigator CO2 Ventures, will also capture and liquefy CO2 from ethanol producers to be stored in south central Illinois.
We've taken that skill set, curated it into the CO2 space, and brought forward the project, the Heartland Greenway that's being talked about largely today.
Navigator's pipeline will cross more than 1,300 miles through 5 states, capturing and storing approximately 15 million metric tons of CO2 a year.
We intend to be operational at some point in 2025.
A third carbon capture pipeline, Wolf Carbon Solutions, is a smaller 280-mile pipeline crossing Cedar Rapids and Davenport in eastern Iowa, on its way to storage sites in Illinois. These 3 pipelines have been met with heavy resistance from some landowners along their path.
So it was just out of the blue. We got a registered mail, and it just notified us that what they were thinking about doing and the meeting.
Landowners are being asked to sign easements allowing the pipelines to pass through their property. Some are not on board.
Well, every meeting that we have attended on the informational meeting, the information's different. And we know that they have told us different things. And I don't know if they're all false, but they seem to be leaning towards benefit rather than safety. And that's what our main concerns are, is safety.
Many legislators are on board with carbon sequestration.
It's value-added agriculture, and it's creating value for the farmers. We raise an incredibly low carbon footprint corn but also the sequestration, because to be able to sell our ethanol to the markets where we're able to capture more value.
But questions arise with using eminent domain to make these projects happen.
The use of eminent domain is a last resort scenario, especially on a project like this. But ultimately, it's an infrastructure project. All things considered, it's my hope that the right-of-way can be achieved and accomplished without the use of eminent domain.
Is that agreeable?
Both Summit and Navigator are taking the fight over property rights to court. In Woodbury County, a Mobile, Iowa woman is fighting to keep Navigator land surveyors off of her property.
I just feel it's against my property rights as an owner.
Summit, Navigator, and Wolf are pushing forward with a goal of changing the CO2 landscape in the Midwest.
And I believe it's a big part of the future of the family farms and the next generation.
In Northwest Iowa, I'm Katie Koppel reporting.
And we'll see you back here again next time as we see how agriculture makes Nebraska grow.